In the turbulent landscape of American politics, where the lines between activism and spectacle often blur, few figures rose as quickly or as controversially as Charlie Kirk. Kirk's meteoric ascent was marked by a knack for capturing attention and a willingness to challenge the status quo at every turn. At just 18, he founded Turning Point USA, a conservative youth organization that quickly became a powerful force on college campuses nationwide, energizing a new generation of right-leaning students. Kirk positioned himself as a dynamic voice for a new generation of conservatives, closely allied with Donald Trump and a fixture on cable news, where his sharp rhetoric and unapologetic style drew both admiration and outrage. His influence was undeniable, mobilizing thousands of young people and shaping political discourse, not just on campuses but across the nation. To supporters, he was a bold warrior against liberal ideology, unafraid to speak his mind and defend conservative values in the face of fierce opposition. To critics, however, Kirk was a purveyor of division and misinformation, accused of stoking outrage and deepening the country's political rifts. Kirk thrived on confrontation, engaging directly with students and activists who opposed him, and his social media presence was relentless, amplifying his message to millions and sparking heated debates online. His culture war tour on campuses became a hallmark, making him a lightning rod for both praise and criticism, and turning college auditoriums into battlegrounds for America's ideological future. Ultimately, Kirk represented a shift in conservative activism, harnessing the power of social media and campus organizing to build a highly visible, deeply controversial movement that redefined youth engagement in politics. Whether seen as a hero or a villain, his impact on the national conversation was profound, leaving a legacy that continues to spark debate. His sudden, violent death was not just the loss of a public figure, but the silencing of a voice that had shaped a generation's political dialogue and left an indelible mark on the story of American activism. On September 10, 2025, news broke that Charlie Kirk, age 31, had been shot and killed during a speaking event at Utah Valley University. The shocking news spread rapidly, sending shockwaves through the campus and across the nation. The scene was chaotic, shots rang out mid-speech, and Kirk fell before a stunned audience. Panic erupted as people scrambled for cover, some frozen in disbelief, others rushing to help or escape the auditorium. Law enforcement locked down the campus, searching for the shooter as confusion and grief swept through the crowd. Students and faculty were ordered to shelter in place, while helicopters circled overhead and sirens echoed through the halls. News outlets scrambled for details. Social media erupted with shock, speculation, and raw emotion. Within minutes, hashtags trended worldwide, and millions tuned in for updates, desperate to understand what had happened and why. For followers, it was a devastating attack on a leader. For the nation, a chilling reminder of how political divisions can turn deadly. Vigils sprang up overnight, and debates about security and free speech reignited with new urgency. Kirk's final public message, a tense Instagram debate about abortion, became an instant focal point, encapsulating his divisive legacy. Screenshots of his last words circulated widely, fueling arguments and reflection in equal measure. The assassination was universally condemned, but the conversations that followed were fraught with the same tensions Kirk had stoked. Politicians called for unity, yet the air was thick with blame and suspicion. The tragedy forced Americans to confront a terrible reality. The culture war had claimed a life in the most brutal way. Communities across the country gathered to mourn, but also to question how things had come to this point. A family grieved, and a nation was left reeling. The pain was deeply personal for those who knew Kirk, but the shock rippled outward, touching millions who never met him. The loss was not just personal, but a national reckoning with the consequences of political animosity. In the aftermath, Americans were left to grapple with the cost of division, and to wonder what might come next. Amid the flood of reactions that poured in from all corners of the internet, one comment stood out for its sincerity and vulnerability. From Broadway and TV star Kristin Chenoweth. Known for her powerful voice and heartfelt performances, Chenoweth's response was both unexpected and deeply moving. Under Kirk's final Instagram video, Chenoweth posted, "I'm so upset. Didn't always agree, but appreciated some perspectives. What a heartbreak. His young family. I know where he is now. Heaven. But still." Her words, brief yet loaded with emotion, captured the shock and sadness that many felt, regardless of their personal views. Her message was simple, direct, and filled with genuine grief, focusing on the human tragedy rather than the politics that often surround public figures. In a world where online comments can be harsh or divisive, Chenoweth's empathy shone through. Chenoweth's message blended personal faith and compassion, offering comfort to Kirk's family and expressing sorrow for a life lost. She acknowledged the pain of those left behind, especially his young family, and reminded everyone of the importance of kindness in moments of tragedy. She followed up, calling the shooting horrifying and unacceptable, and shared her husband's message condemning the violence. Her willingness to speak out against the act itself, rather than focus on differences, resonated with many. Her response was consistent and heartfelt, mourning not Kirk's politics, but his life and the family left behind. Chenoweth's words reflected a deep sense of loss and a desire to bring comfort, even in the face of controversy. In a world where celebrities often avoid controversy or choose silence, Chenoweth's open sorrow was powerful. She chose to speak from the heart, risking backlash to honor a life lost. Her tribute was not a political endorsement, but a gut reaction to a violent death. It was a reminder that grief can transcend ideology, and that compassion is a universal language. She mourned Kirk the human being, not the activist. Her focus remained on the loss experienced by his loved ones and the void left behind. Yet this distinction, grieving the person, not the politics, would soon ignite a firestorm among her own fans, sparking intense debate and strong reactions. The stage was set for a fierce debate about compassion, allyship, and public mourning, raising questions about how we respond to tragedy in a divided world. Kristin Chenoweth's fans, especially within the LGBTQ+ community, reacted with shock and hurt. Her tribute to Kirk, a figure known for anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric, felt like a contradiction to her long-standing allyship. The comment section filled with confusion, disappointment, and anger from fans who felt betrayed. For them, the issue wasn't sadness over a death, but who was being mourned. Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, had promoted views many saw as threatening to their rights and safety. Chenoweth's recent support for progressive causes made her tribute even more bewildering. Fans questioned how she could appreciate perspectives from someone they saw as dangerous. The backlash spread rapidly online, turning her comment into a major event. Suddenly, her entire identity as an ally was under scrutiny, and her fans were left questioning her values. The core criticism wasn't about Chenoweth's compassion, but where it was directed. Many fans, especially from marginalized communities, saw her tribute as a betrayal of the values she'd championed. They argued that sympathizing with Kirk, without acknowledging the harm he caused, was a form of complicity. The phrase appreciated some perspectives was especially galling. What perspectives, they asked, were worth appreciating? For these fans, there was no middle ground with rhetoric rooted in hate. Chenoweth's support had been a source of comfort. Her tribute now felt deeply disillusioning. The incident raised tough questions about allyship. Is it enough to express support, or must one actively oppose those who harm your community? Critics saw her mourning as a political act with real implications. The backlash was a demand for accountability, a reassertion that some differences are about human rights, not just opinion. To understand the backlash, you have to know Chenoweth's history as a gay icon and LGBTQ+ ally. For decades, she's been a beacon of acceptance, using her platform to preach inclusion and love, especially for those reconciling faith and identity. She's spoken out for LGBTQ+ rights, criticized anti-gay groups, and reassured fans that God loves everyone. Her activism built deep trust and admiration among queer fans. That's why her tribute to Kirk felt so jarring, a seeming contradiction to everything she'd stood for. Fans weren't just disappointed, they felt a personal connection had been broken. The controversy became more than a celebrity misstep. It was an emotional rupture for those who saw her as a champion. The question lingered: how could their ally mourn a man who represented what they fought against? The controversy quickly became a litmus test for compassion in a polarized America. Some praised Chenoweth for showing grace, arguing that mourning a violent death is basic decency, not political endorsement. They saw the backlash as evidence of a toxic, unforgiving culture. Others insisted compassion shouldn't be unconditional. Public mourning of harmful figures risks normalizing their rhetoric. For them, true empathy means standing with the vulnerable, not absolving their antagonists. The debate exposed a fundamental divide. Can we separate a person from their ideology? The Chenoweth Kirk incident became a microcosm of this struggle, showing how hard it is to navigate grief in a politicized world. Every word, every gesture is now a declaration in the ongoing culture war. The controversy forces us to ask, should we mourn our political opponents? Some argue that human life is sacred and compassion should transcend politics, even for those we oppose. Mourning Kirk is, for them, mourning a son, husband, and father, and condemning violence as always wrong. Others say public mourning of harmful figures can sanitize their legacy and invalidate the pain of those they targeted. For marginalized communities, seeing Kirk eulogized without mention of harm feels like a second injury. There's no easy answer. Do we choose universal empathy or targeted solidarity? The Chenoweth Kirk incident shows we haven't found consensus. It reveals a deep fracture in our understanding of compassion in a divided world. As the controversy fades, we're left to reflect on empathy, respect, and dialogue in a fractured society. The reactions to Chenoweth's tribute reveal a struggle to hold two truths: personal tragedy and harmful legacy. We must learn to distinguish between forms of compassion. Empathy for a grieving family doesn't mean endorsing harmful ideas. The real challenge is expressing grief responsibly, acknowledging both loss and harm. Public figures must be aware of how their words are received, especially by those who rely on their support. The path forward is respectful disagreement and a deeper understanding of when disagreement becomes dehumanization. We must condemn violence while critiquing harmful ideologies. The goal: honor our values, protect the vulnerable, and retain our capacity for empathy. We must mourn tragic deaths without sanitizing damaging legacies. It's a delicate balance, but one we must strive to find.